But okay, so my name is Will Moss. So I'm going to be your moderator this evening. I am also the founder and CEO of HBCU Connect. So you guys have probably received lots of email from me communicating this event. I was excited to get you guys ready for the event to take advantage of this evening where you're not only going to learn about the Microsoft Flipgrid team, but you can ask questions about the opportunities that are available. You can learn more about the team, what they do, the type of opportunities that they have available on their teams, the type of technologies. So really, I want you to make sure to take advantage of this evening to learn, ask questions, and get a feel for, if this team will be a good fit for you. And like I said, ask as many questions as you can utilizing the chat. All right, so let me quickly go over the agenda. So tonight, first thing I'm going to do is give a quick welcome from myself, give you a little bit of background on our relationship with Microsoft. Then I'm going to hand it over to our keynote speaker, who is Journée Armand. And then once Journée gives the keynote, we'll have a little bit of dialogue with Journée. And then I'm going to introduce each of the team members that have taken the time out of their schedule to share their experiences with you. So I'll introduce each of the team members. We'll get to know them. Then we'll have sort of a panel discussion with all of the team members where we'll have our audio and video on from the team members and myself. I'll ask a few questions to get you guys more familiar with the Microsoft and the Flipgrid culture. Why Microsoft and Flipgrid are a great team to work for and a great place to work. So we'll have that panel discussion, and then I'm going to entertain questions that come in from the chat. So this will be your opportunity to ask questions in sort of a forum, where everyone can take advantage of listening to the answers to some of the questions that you might have. But for the candidates that are on so far, make sure to leverage the chat if you have questions to specific team members after they present, and to the Microsoft Flipgrid team after you present or before you present. Please keep an eye on the chat if you can answer some of the questions from our candidates. But after we have our panel discussion, we'll have a live Q&A. And then after the live Q&A, we'll talk about next steps. So if you're interested in landing that job interview potentially with the Microsoft Flipgrid team, we will tell you exactly how to do that. So that's our event agenda for the evening. Time's going to probably start flying once we start digging into all the great backgrounds and experiences of the team that we have here. So get ready. All right, so quick overview, introduction of myself. My name is Will Moss. Like I said, I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect. Our organization, as you guys are probably already aware of, we are an opportunity engine for diverse candidates, primarily focused on African-American and HBCU graduates and students, but also we have a large and growing Latinx community as a part of our site as well. So we like to bring opportunities to you all from different companies, and Microsoft happens to be a company that we've been working with for years, and Microsoft is actually responsible for HBCU Connect doing these types of events. As we had our partnership, 7 or 8 years ago, one of the hiring managers and HR leaders came to me and said, "Hey, Will, this is great. We're getting candidates on our website, but we want to make sure that your candidates get a good look from our hiring managers, get to meet some of our team members, and we make sure that interviews and hires happen." So you are in the right place if you want to potentially land an interview, if you want to learn more about Microsoft, ask questions, and engage. So that is the opportunity for you. That's a little bit about our history. But this is not about me. This is about the Microsoft Flipgrid team. So without further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker, who is Journée Armand, who is the head of educator innovation at Flipgrid. Journée, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all.
Got it.
All right, so we are going to begin. Just welcome everyone. I'm just so thankful that you're here. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Flipgrid. As Will mentioned, I'm Journée Armand, the head of educator innovation at Flipgrid. It is my hope that my story and the stories of my colleagues and the story of Flipgrid inspires and empowers, opening hearts and minds to what we do daily in our mission, which is to empower every learner on the planet to share their voice and to respect the diverse voices of others. So what's your story? Each one of us brings ourselves daily to this work. And now, because of this incredible event that's been planned by Will, we are all a part of a collective story. Exactly 1 year ago, our world was forced to transform the way we think, the way we work, the way we interact with our communities. And guess what? We're still here. Our experiences and our resilience in the face of adversity is the very essence that allows us to contribute greatly to the work that we do. With that being said, I want to share a little bit of my story with you. It's all about unlocking resilience. So, this is my family, specifically my father's side. He's that baby boy being held on the far right hand side. And my grandmother, who's sitting right next to the matriarch and patriarch of our family, is the one who inspired me. This picture was taken around 1949, a time when the first atomic bomb was detonated. Apartheid became the official government policy of South Africa, and the steel industry was booming. People began buying TVs, and silly putty was first introduced. But it was also the time of the Jim Crow era. My grandmother Grace, who was brilliant, she had a limited formal education, but she was someone that I always looked up to. Although she didn't have the opportunity to complete high school, she ensured that all four of her children finished school and graduated from college, all HBCUs, with some not only earning their bachelor's degrees, but others earning master's degrees as well as doctorates. As I learned about her stories, which were filled with adversity, I knew that I was destined to become a teacher and pour what she gave to me and to so many other students. And that gift that she possessed of never giving up was something that I wanted to gift every child that I had an opportunity to interact with. But I always wondered what made her so strong to keep going, even when everything else was against her. And it was something called resilience through this curiosity that I found. Resilience was truly the art of living. But what really makes us resilient? I believe that there are three keys that we can use to unlock resilience. So these keys are found within us, and we need to realize that each key is used most proper at certain times during our lives, especially those challenges. So I'm going to tell you a story about my first love, and it isn't a person, it's a location. It's New Orleans. Now, some know it as a Big Easy, the birthplace of jazz, the home of the drive-through daiquiris. Hey, go figure. Where funerals are celebrated, and it's a place where people state once they visit here, they are already ready to come back. But I just call it home. Some of my favorite things that I enjoy, both locals and others enjoy. But we have an allegiance in New Orleans to our food, our music, our culture, that we partake in the same things every single season. So whether it's warm beignets in an outdoor cafe, or breezy rides to witness the beauty around us, or screams of joy during Mardi Gras parades just to get a beat, or even enjoying pinching a tail and sucking a head, and I'm talking about crawfish, of course. But on August 27th, when we typically celebrate my dad's birthday, we had an uninvited guest, and her name was Katrina. Hurricane Katrina, that is. And it was a moment that forever changed my life. See if my video will play.
I think you might have to activate audio from yours.
Oh, okay. I didn't activate my audio. Oh, that was a rookie mistake. But anyway, that was the mayor sharing that you need to get your butts out of New Orleans. But by that time, for me, it was way too late. And that same breeze of the streetcar filled empty rooms that Katrina winds blew out at the hotel that I evacuated to. And the crowds that were once screaming for beads were now people mourning, trying to figure out next steps in order to survive. What used to feel like a quick walk across the street became an endless walk into the unknown until my family was able to get to higher ground and leave the city that I loved so much. These images and that experience will never go away. And for a moment, I thought I would never go back. But it was that same love that lived within inside me that brought me back and keeps me here and loyal, because true love within a community is always reciprocated in every single way. These are my daughters sharing their love for the musicians that are just pouring their passions out to other people to enjoy. It is that love that keeps us going, just like that streetcar. So, the first key to unlock resilience is love. Now, I want to tell you, don't let anyone dictate your dreams. This is something that I have to tell myself daily. Now, my mission in becoming an educator was ultimately to have an impact on education around the world, providing the best opportunities for all to learn in equitable ways. So, back in 2015, I had the honor of being selected as a semifinalist in the U.S. Department of Ed's Teacher Ambassador Fellowship Program, which would allow me to represent my state in decisions made at the national level. And as you can see, I was selected as a semifinalist in this program. Unfortunately, the person who I worked under, my principal at that time, was not for me and did not view me as a leader. And he actually told me, "You're beginning your doctorate, and now these are things that are not meant for people like you." Now, in that moment, I could have said a million things, but I had that moment of disappointment. And his interview, which was next with that committee, resulted in me not advancing to the finals. But I was reminded that although a person can block an opportunity, people cannot block your blessings. So remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. I use that opportunity as fuel that challenged me to pour more into ways that I could do that same work without that specific title. To my surprise, I was offered a position as an instructional technology specialist for the State Department of Alabama, based at a HBCU, Alabama A&M University, serving 12 school districts across North Alabama. My impact became even greater. And once again, I was faced to work with people who did not see eye to eye, which helped me to grow. And a couple years ago, my daughter received this book, Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History, for her birthday. Every night, we would read a new story about a person who defied the norms and did not let their circumstances get in the way of them growing. And to my surprise, just this year, it was a pleasure to have the author of that book, Vashti Harrison, share her love for drawing and researching and writing with students around the world to enjoy on our platform, Flipgrid. And even my own daughter, who now knows and sees herself as a little leader, enjoyed that programming. What a blessing. So remember, the second key to unlock resilience is the key of growth. So moving on, I'm going to tell you a story about inspiration. This is one of my favorite high school teachers, Miss Skimsky. And I was using Flipgrid at that time throughout the state, and we put together a Flipgrid topic for other people to share about teachers that impacted them. And so when I thought about who really impacted me in my life as a teacher, I first thought about Miss Skimsky. And I tried to figure out how can I get in contact with her. So I started my search on Google. I found someone with her name and said, let me just go ahead and see if this email will work, and sent her that email, letting her know that she had an impact on my life. And to my surprise, guess what, y'all? She emailed me back. And the thing that stuck out to me in that email was this saying: as much as I may have left an impression on you, please know that you did the same for me. You reassured me on a daily basis that there was goodness in the world. And some days, as it is harder to find than others, just being in your presence always made me aware of the genuineness, kindness, and sincerity all around me. Which made me realize no matter who you are in the world or what you do, you can have a huge impact on someone's life. We all need someone. And so This wonderful month is centered around women's history. And so there were women tagging other women of who they were inspired by. So I joined in on the fun. And as you can see, I tagged some of my amazing coworkers at Flipgrid, some other educators, and of course, Michelle Obama, because who isn't inspired by her? And once again, to my surprise, I received so many messages back from other women saying how much I have inspired them. So always build that community and share. And that's what Flipgrid is all about, the community. As I mentioned before, our mission at Flipgrid is to empower every learner on the planet to share their voice and to respect the diverse voices of others. And that story has beautiful and humble beginnings, which started at the University of Minnesota. Dr. Charlie Miller had 12 master's and PhD level students in his course. But at that time, he was given a beautiful opportunity through a grant to study education across all 7 continents. Now, of course, this provided a little bit of a challenge, right, for him and his students because he wasn't physically there. And so, of course, once you have challenges, that's when new innovations come. And so he started thinking, how can I connect with my students in a meaningful way so that we can have these discussions centered around their work? And so for 40 hours, he and his friend Brad coded the very first version of Flipgrid. And, the beauty of this story is that there actually was a line of code that was incorrect, that did not lock down the users to the University of Minnesota. And I don't know if you know anything about educators, but when educators find something, they start sharing it out. So that's kind of how Flipgrid started blowing up. But this was the very first version of Flipgrid, which used Flash. So Flipgrid is a video-based discussion platform where an educator can pose a topic to a class, and then the class can respond to those topics. And then, as I mentioned, this is the very first version. So you see they're using Flash animation for this version. And when you click on a video, what would happen is the video would actually do a flip animation. Hey, you just saw it, out of the grid, hence the name Flipgrid. And so we try to ensure every day that the very heart of Flipgrid is our community, the educators. That microphone is us listening to the community, whether it's on social media, through our different programmings, or face-to-face within our community. That helps us to align our designs as well as our engineering to make all of those things happen. We have a QA team testing those things out, and it goes back to the community, and it is a continuous process. But the community is at the heart of everything that we do. They are our magic. Our community guides our mission. And so what you'll see is that we love to have fun with our community. Oh, let's see what happened to the slide. There we go. We love to have fun with our community. So whether that is face-to-face, going on bus tours, inspiring students to be whatever it is that they want to be, or even sometimes dressing up for different events and surprising students, or giving out awards for Black History Month. We've done so many things across our community. But once again, the heart of Flipgrid is building that community, and that's what the platform does. As you can see, students can share their voice in so many beautiful ways, and then other students can go and respond via video or even text-based comments. And so you'll see educators then take what we create and they put their magic on it. So we have students celebrating here in this tweet is one all about Black History Month celebrations with Flipgrid. And then there's also ones where the students are sharing their New Year's resolution. And every Flipgrid video has a QR code that has AR magic behind it. So once you scan that QR code, that video is played in that student's reality or whoever's viewing reality. And so we ensure that Flipgrid continuously grows from that feedback. So there's been lots of iterations over time. You can see that with our logo from year to year. But what started off with those 12 students at the University of Minnesota is now across 100 million plus educators, learners, and families on Flipgrid. We are so honored to be able to serve them. And as they keep sharing their voice, we have over 34 plus years of shared video every day on Flipgrid, which is 315 videos shared per second. And in order to help us, share their voice and once again bring equity across the board of education, we have incredible partners that have teamed up with us to share their content for free. And Flipgrid not only is providing a platform, but Flipgrid also knows that the importance of sharing diverse voices. So a couple years ago, we hosted our Voice Academy um, on our headquarters in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so that minorities who are interested in the keynote area can come together and learn the craft. And then also every other month, we have conversations about race, equity, and justice. And I'm so excited that in April, we will have one of my favorite artists and activists, Brandon Bean Mike Odoms, who did the recent Colin Kaepernick Ben and Jerry's ice cream container, the artwork for that, as well as the NFL Super Bowl billboards, will be one of the voices on our panel. So remember, the third key is all about inspiration, and inspiration can come from anywhere, and it lies within you. So never forget that resilience is truly the art of living. So let's help everyone to unlock it. Let's love, grow, and inspire. Thank you so very much.
So if I can engage you for a couple of minutes just to talk about your experience,
Yeah.
is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. So tell me what it is in your role that you do sort of on a day-to-day basis. What's a day in the life like for you?
Yeah, so a day in the life of me as an educator on a tech platform team, right? So I get the pleasure of actually meeting with teams to share the educator perspective. So whether that's our design team showing us maybe new designs that could work a little bit better for educators in their flow and accessing the platform, or engineers who are testing out maybe some new features and want to see if these features would translate very well into the classroom setting. We have those conversations on a daily basis. We also provide professional development for educators so that they can know how to use Flipgrid appropriately within their classrooms. So it really is a reciprocal process. And we're kind of like that liaison between the educator community and our team community to ensure that Flipgrid is the most inclusive and accessible platform for everyone to learn and grow from.
How did you get introduced to the opportunity at Flipgrid? So like, what was your path or your journey? Did you go to
I
like
didn't
an
say
event?
that part in the keynote only because I was trying to save time. So
Not good.
I was using Flipgrid as an educator working for the U.S. Department of Ed. And I had a friend of mine who I met through Flipgrid who was living in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was like, hey, we need some people to come present at this conference. I can't pay you, but we would love to have you present. And so once again, that's my passion. That's what I do. So I said, hey, I got you. I went out there on my own funds, and lo and behold, Dr. Charlie Miller, the founder of Flipgrid, was the keynote of that conference where I was presenting. So Charlie actually came to one of my sessions, and he was like, hey, I want you to do a webinar for Flipgrid. So I flew to Minneapolis. I did the webinar for Flipgrid, and a couple weeks later, he was like, I would love for you to join our team. So that's my journey to Flipgrid. That was prior to the Microsoft acquisition. We only had about 20 something employees at that time. So it's been great to see the evolution of Flipgrid. We have about 100 plus employees right now, and we're growing.
Now, you said you flew out to Minneapolis to do the presentation?
Yes.
Do you currently work, are you currently in New Orleans or working remote,
Yes,
or did
I
you
am
relocate?
in New Orleans.
Okay.
I said I love New Orleans. I'm not going anywhere. So I
Excellent.
do work remotely. So I was the first remote employee working at Flipgrid. And so the educators who are on my team, we are all remote.
Excellent. So to your point, I want to make sure we give time to all of the rest of the panelists. So, but if you'll hang on to join us for our panel discussion,
Yep.
we'll engage a little bit more there. Sound
Awesome.
good? Okay, so let me introduce our next speaker. So I'm going to share my slides real quick. Okay, so our next speaker is Nathan Guggenberger, who is a senior software engineering manager for Flipgrid. So Nathan, if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Will, and wonderful journey. It's always inspiring to see your keynotes and all your presentations and Flipgrid lives, and they're just so inspiring and exciting. So, yeah, back to me. My name is Nathan Guggenberger. Everyone just calls me Googs. As you'll see, there's a lot of different Nates in our relatively small company, so everyone's kind of got a nickname. I go by Googs, and so I am born and raised here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Went to school in a small southern school, Winona State University here. And so that's actually, kind of, I guess, the start to my Flipgrid journey, where one of my classmates at the time, who you'll eventually meet here as well, after college, we, separated ways, went different places. And then he ended up at Flipgrid. And then after the acquisition, he reached out to me saying, hey, we need to really grow this team. Specifically, at the time it was really growing what I thought was going to be an iOS role. Historically, up to that point, I'd only ever done Java server development, not user facing. I never really once ever heard from a customer unless they were angry. So, it was a great opportunity to come to Flipgrid and Microsoft. And, it's funny, the first line of Android code I ever wrote was actually after I got hired to do Android development. And so, that I appreciate Nate and the whole Flipgrid team for entrusting me. And, just that it kind of goes to the culture of Flipgrid really, and exploring and learning and growing, and taking that as an opportunity to try new things and to grow personally and really make an impact professionally. So, and that was 2.5 years ago now, where I started as just an Android developer and have since grown and now manage multiple members on our iOS and Android teams, focusing primarily on the Flipgrid app itself. And so as people go through and introduce themselves later, you'll notice a trend. We kind of have two distinct products on the Flipgrid team. There's the Flipgrid app itself, and then we've separated off a team for our camera library to then be used inside Flipgrid as also across other Microsoft products.
So I'm going to put my candidate hat on and just kind of ask you some questions. So so now you're in management now. So when you first started, did you start as an engineer and that kind of matriculated to be a manager?
Yeah, that's right. So when I was one of the first to join, and I reported up to our head of mobile, which I still do today. And as the team has grown, I've had the opportunity to take on more responsibilities and making sure that everyone on the team, all the other developers, have the tools that they need to be successful and understand, really what their goals are so that, they can also be successful. And, one of the important things is this was the career path that I wanted to go more into the people management side. But we have a lot of members on the team who don't necessarily want to take that route and just want to become more of a technical expert or a technical lead, which is just as much as an opportunity on this team as if you want to take that jump into more of the management route.
So what can candidates expect as far as like the size of a development team? Like how large is your team right now?
As we grow, sometimes it feels like the teams get smaller, more focused. But right now, the mobile team as a whole for both Flipgrid and the camera team are across iOS and Android is, I think, 15 with an almost 50% split there. I think iOS is just a little bit larger of a team. But even separating out into our disciplines, everyone finds an opportunity and has the opportunity to have ownership over various aspects of the code base or process, and really grow from that standpoint and bring in their expertise on various areas. We're still a small enough team. And with this growth, we're really trying to bring in experts from various, areas that we maybe don't have that expertise from, whether it's, build processes, code, audio video frameworks, PM, all the aspects that, really make out the whole of software development process, bringing in talent that has experience that we need, as well as diverse experience that we can then, plug into our processes.
That was actually going to be sort of the lead for my next question around. So if you're a manager, I'm a software engineer, I'm interested in maybe joining your team, what are some of the things that you look for from a hard skills, like, technical skills? And then what are also some of the things that you look for from a soft skills, right? So how folks might fit into your team and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. From the hard skills standpoint, we have obviously the iOS and the Android teams. From the Android side, which I'll speak a little bit more to, I'll leave the iOS hard skills to maybe another member on the team. But from the Android side, when I started, we were all Java based, and over the last couple, 2 years now, we've converted almost everything into be Kotlin. So on both iOS and Android, we're native. iOS is Swift, and so really what we're looking for, we have, I think, positions open at the software engineer level as well as the senior software engineer level, and both of those, obviously, we're looking for some experience doing Android development, whether it's Java based or Kotlin based, and then just like the common libraries and paradigms that are common in the mobile space. So speaking more from how we operate on the Android side, we use some of the common libraries, retrofit, OK HTTP. On the camera side, we've used Camera 1 and I think Camera 2 moving to Camera X, RX Java for our reactive programming, maybe possibly moving. There's been discussions about moving to coroutines. And a lot of that actually is driven by the development team and less of a mandate. And so we work every week together, have meetings discussing our code health and where we want to take the code base to best suit our community, and have discussions like that saying, hey, we're at MVVM right now. Is there a different architecture or paradigm that we want to move to that would better support the upcoming feature set and the support that we could provide for it? So that's a little bit more on the hard skill side. On the soft skill side, it's obviously, being able to articulate your opinions and thoughts on the approach of various features and bugs and enhancements to the product. We work extremely closely with our design teams, to really put forward a product that's easy to use, accessible. Accessibility is a really big, push on our team to make sure that our product is, usable by everyone, regardless of their ability level.
Excellent. So I appreciate you sharing your experiences. If you'll hang on to join us for our panel discussion. But with that, I'll thank you, and then I'll move on to our next presenter.
Awesome. Thank you, Will.
Yep, thank you. So our next speaker is going to be Somesh Arora, who is an iOS engineer too within Microsoft Flipgrid. So Somesh, if you're ready.
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot, Will. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We all really appreciate it. So again, my name is Somesh. I am an iOS engineer here at Microsoft. Joined the team a little bit over a year ago. I would say this time when times were different. The pandemic had just started. And I remember I was in one of the very last in-person onboarding at Microsoft. And I had to relocate for my role. I moved to Minneapolis from Kansas. And the pandemic had just started, so things were a little bit different. The onboarding looked very different. Me getting to know the team was a little bit different, but it all worked out at the end. As far as education, I went to school to study computer science, did a lot of internships in the software. I started off as an Android engineer, and as I was pursuing my internship, one fine day, my manager asked me if I want to do some iOS development, and that was the day when everything changed, and I shifted from being an Android developer to iOS. And things had never been the same. After that, I worked on several consumer industries, and ended up one fine day, a recruiter from Microsoft reached out to me, and I wanted to make a greater impact at that point. And knowing the things that Team Flipgrid has been doing, talking to the manager and talking to everyone, me knowing that I would be able to make a much greater impact, being able to lead more features, get more experience under my belt. It was a no-brainer move for me at that point. That's a little bit of my professional experience. During my free time in my personal life, I'm training to become a pilot. I'm enrolled in a flying school. Of course, the pandemic has slowed down the process just a little bit, but nonetheless, still on to that journey to become a pilot one day, and just try to do a lot of outdoorsy stuff. Doing cross-country trips. I've been to 29 states so far, and planning to cover at least the lower 48 and of course all 50 sometime in the future. Yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
So can you speak to a little bit? So you've been at the company for roughly a year now?
That is
So
correct.
can you speak to what it was like to get onboarded? I know you said right before COVID-19. So were you in the office a little while and then you had to start working from home, or how did that work?
Yes, exactly. So I was in the office for the entire week, and then that was the day. Like I remember, it was a Friday, and we decided that, hey, let's try it for a day, and we'll see how it goes. And that was the last day we were in the office. So it was a little bit difficult. Of course, the traditional onboarding would be me getting to know the team and working with them, but different times require different measures. So we all went remote. We all, I guess from that point on, we set up a lot of water cooler meetings. I remember the entire mobile team went out for an outing by the lake where we all were sitting far away from each other, doing social distancing while trying to get to know each other. But yeah, the entire team helped me go through that transition where me moving to a different city, not knowing everyone. I remember my manager was there for me, and he told me, like, he gave me all the resources that I needed to make that successful transition, being that member of the team who could contribute even when I didn't know a lot of new members or didn't know a lot of new things here. But yeah, the transition was difficult, but the most important thing was the entire team was there for me and was there to walk with me down that path.
Excellent. So I noticed that you got some experience in development at a couple of other companies like Garmin and Avid. So what are some of the differences that you've seen, or some of the things that you like now working for Microsoft and the Flipgrid team?
Definitely. So I guess one of the main thing is domain. I have always worked in the consumer industry, but I come from a family of educators. My cousin, sister, my aunt, they all have been an educator. So me working at Blackboard, I knew that I'm making an impact that I want to. And knowing Team Flipgrid, the stuff that they have been doing and stuff I knew that I'll be involved in, that was one of the greater catalysts where I wanted to make an impact in the education space. That's one of the great thing I like about Team Flipgrid. And making a greater impact. I was doing great at my previous job at Garmin, but as Jorne mentioned, we are all about community. Community is the heart of all that we do here. And me knowing that being able to support more than 100 million educators, families, and students was something I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to, I guess, lead a lot of different features, make greater impacts. So those are some of the differences where, yes, I was making an impact at other places as well, but not as bigger of an impact that I'm making right now. And of course, the domain where I wanted to be around the education domain. Of course, when I was in college, I was a teaching assistant and a research assistant in the computer science field. And I absolutely love that, being able to mentor the people, being able to answer the questions, and being that liaison between the teachers and the educators. So I knew that if I joined Flipgrid, it would be a no-brainer that I'll definitely enjoy that experience.
So a day in the life question for you, because I'm a semi-retired software engineer. I mean, I still develop some of the code for my platform, but I used to be a corporate software engineer at AT&T, and part of my time was writing code. Part of my time was code reviews, meetings, fixing bugs, and then even feature engineering. So what is a typical day in the life like for a software engineer on the Flipgrid team?
Definitely, that's a great question. So it widely depends on what type of sprint you are. Of course, with when pandemic started, we had a different roadmap, but again, reiterating our mission, we do everything for our community. So we had to basically reinvent our roadmap and basically support our community. So going through a design review, working with designers, working with the PMs to make sure we are aligned, we are aligning our goals, which would best support our community. So of course, as a software engineer, I would code maybe 60 to 70% of the time. And during the rest, I would be doing code reviews. I would be working with designers, PMs, going to meetings. And of course, a very fun part that this pandemic gave us was water cooler meetings, like daily check-in with your teammates, making sure we are aligned on our priorities, just having the casual conversations, having lunch with them. So a lot of meetings, a lot of spec document review, a lot of design reviews, and of course, coding sums up most of my day. And of course, being part of the team, I get to do events like this where I get to interact with future candidates, interact with people like you, Will, who inspires me further in the mission that I'm involved in.
Excellent. And I want to thank you for that and for taking the time out to share your experiences. So if you'll hang on and join us for our panel discussion. But with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Will.
Okay, so let me turn off the spotlight here. And let me introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Keisha Marie Josephs, who is a software engineer too on the Android team at Flipgrid. So Keisha, if you are ready. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
My name is Keisha. I am a software engineer on the Android team here at Flipgrid. I am a relatively new hire, and I started during COVID, and I started December 21st. Originally from the Bronx, New York City, went to college in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Swarthmore College. And then after I graduated, I taught a little bit for 2 years and decided that teaching was a very hard job and went back to grad school at the University of Arizona in Tucson. I worked on my dissertation. I was working on my dissertation and decided, hey, I need to grow up and figure out a place to live. And I knew I couldn't afford New York, and I wanted to keep that same. I really loved being out in nature in Tucson, so I wanted to keep that same, have those same opportunities. And so I looked at all the states in the United States and really liked Minnesota. Just that it was cold. But yeah, and there was a boot camp here called Prime Digital Academy. Actually, it's still going. That had a scholarship for Minnesota residents who were making under a certain income. And I was a poor grad student at the time, so I qualified and was able to jump into tech. Because previously in my grad career, I was taking some computer science classes, but it was just too late for me to totally switch into a computer science field from the very beginning. So yeah, that's how I made it here. I worked previously at a startup here called Kipsu. I started as a tech representative and moved up to software engineer, and just let everybody that I knew know that I wanted to work on mobile development. And luckily we argued for the need for an Android app, and I was put on the Android team, or mobile team, I should say, mobile squad. And then COVID hit, and I was furloughed. And when I was brought back to the company, they said, yeah, we're don't have we're going to put that Android project on hold. So I left Kipsu and then went to another company called Cloudburst. I just wanted to work in the mobile arena. I didn't care how. So Cloudburst was doing more JavaScript, so Angular and Node. And I did that for 5 months and realized I really, really, really missed working with Android. Sorry for all the people like React Native and stuff like that. But I just really liked working with Kotlin. And so I was in another tech group, and I guess last year or something, I was just talking about how much I wanted to do mobile, and somebody from Flipgrid remembered and was like, hey, here's this role opening up. So I applied, and I'm very happy to be here. I think it's great to be back in the education space. I love I love seeing the creative things that the students who use Flipgrid come up with. Yeah, I just feel like really happy. I feel like I'm working on something that is making a difference. So yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of interesting things. So you're from New York, right?
Mhm.
But you chose to move to Minnesota,
Mhm.
right? And then you chose to go into tech, and then you ended up working at Flipgrid. So what are some of the things that made you choose? Because a lot of people are from all different parts of the country, right? And I know I went to school at Hampton University. I went to school with a lot of New Yorkers, and most of them want to go back to New York or New Jersey or somewhere right there, right? So I find it very interesting and would love to understand what it is you like about now living and working in Minnesota.
It's the lakes.
The lakes.
And when you are when you spend almost a decade and dealing with Tucson weather, after a certain point, I was like, it's just too hot.
Nice.
And I wanted to. I live very close to the lake, so I can walk there. It's great, when I come home from work and we have a little kayak, me and my partner, and we'll take the kayak out on the lake for a bit, or just go to swim, or I just think it's great having that opportunity where I wouldn't get that if I lived, back in New York City, unless maybe I was like super, super, super rich.
So did when you were onboarded, was it already Microsoft Flipgrid?
Yes.
So
Yep.
so I've got a couple of questions for you. So I think a lot of people will probably relate to your background. So one of my questions is around, so you came on board with Microsoft and Flipgrid. What was the interview process like for you? So like I said, I'm a software engineer as well. I've gone through the interview process. I actually interviewed with Microsoft as well. Luckily, I got the job offer, but I ended up doing my company. But I remember what my interview process was like, and it was a pretty long interview, but it was a phone interview. It was really, really relaxed, and for me, it wasn't intimidating at all. But I know things have changed a little bit, and now interviews have part coding during the interviews and all that kind of thing. So, what was your interview experience like joining the Flipgrid and Microsoft team?
Yeah, so it was virtual because of COVID. I think there was like, initial call with the recruiter, which I guess maybe counted as a phone screen. And then I had to actually do a sample app. So I built a sample app. And then the next round was this really long virtual interview day where it was like, I think every, I don't know, 40, I want to say 45 minutes, I had a different person. So yeah, it was a bit nerve wracking, but I'm also used to, and I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but the places in Minneapolis that I've usually interviewed for, I had really long processes. Like I had to, for KIPSU, it was like 3 or 4 separate interviews, like one first with the team, and then the CEO, and then HR, and then so I didn't think it was like anything really hard. I was kind of used to it. And then the virtual part at Cloudburst, because I applied during COVID, I also had to interview virtually as well. So yeah, that was what my interview process was like.
So, any advice you can give candidates that may go through the interview process? What would you tell them, as far as words of advice?
I think don't be afraid to apply. There's another piece to this, is that when I got information about the opening, I was looking for work, kind of, sorta, and unfortunately, my partner's mom passed away from COVID, and we had to bury her in Canada, and so I got all that info while I was in Canada and completely just not even thinking about it. And one of the roles I was applying to closed, which was left Flipgrid, and I was like, oh my gosh, Microsoft. I don't know if I can do this. But I talked to the person who told me to apply. His name is Graham Early. He's no longer on the team, but I'm still in contact with him. And, you know, I remember all the stats about how, you know, when women usually look at a job listing, we tend to only apply when it's like when we maybe fit 100% of the requirements. And I didn't. And so I made a deliberate choice to still apply, even though I wasn't, what is it, 10x Android developer. I'm still fairly new in the Android development process, even though I have previous development experience. But I'm fairly new to Android, and just go for it, you know, because they will find, if they really want you, if Flipgrid really wants you, they'll find a place for you. At least that's what I felt like. So yeah.
I think that's excellent feedback and advice for candidates. So thank you, Keisha. If you'll hang on for our panel discussion, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Okay, so let me stop the spotlight and introduce our next speaker. So our next speaker is Luis Vivero, who is a senior software engineer on the Android team as well. So Luis, if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting us, and thank you so much for everybody that is like listening. My name is Luis. I very kind of recently also joined Microsoft in last August. I'm working on the Android team, working on the main Flipgrid app, and I'm from Mexico. I live in Mexico City for more than 30 years, and then I was kind of following the American dream, so I was looking for opportunity to move to the States, and finally, yeah, it's been almost 8 years since we moved here with my wife and my 3 daughters. And yeah, so far it's been very good. Yeah, and yeah, I have a major in computer systems engineering, also back in Mexico from Tec de Monterrey. And yeah, back in Mexico, I have like different roles, all of them related to software engineering. And I was starting to be involved with mobile applications in 2000. At that time, I was working with PDAs like Palm Trio and Blackberries. I was most of them. I was kind of programming in Java and C++, and yeah. So most of them, it was like for Symbian platforms on Blackberries and other devices, and Java Micro Edition. There was a lot of like Nokia, Sony Ericsson, some companies that now are almost done. And but it was very, very fun to be involved in all of this. Like I would say since the beginning, I was very fortunate to be working very closely with one of the biggest telecommunication carriers in Mexico and Latin America. Something similar as AT&T here in the States, but in there it's America Mobile or Telcel. So I was working for many years very close with different projects in there. And then when I moved here to the States, I also was hired to join a mobile team that was doing mobile applications for casinos. And then I was hired to be as the first Android engineer in my previous company. And I was there for 6 years, Sleep Fields. So I became the Android team lead. And I started with Android development since 2008. But it's curious because the first application that I placed in, not at the same time, but almost, it was for iOS. At that time, I was kind of managing a team that were doing an application, an internet streaming service similar as Spotify or iHeartRadio. But this was for this. We have a nice relationship with America Mobile and Telcel, and it was very nice to work on this mobile streaming music application on very old devices. So and yeah, I very recently joined the team, almost just a little more than 6 months ago. But I'm very happy. The impact that we are like able to do in our, especially in the education, I really love it. And something else that I love a lot to be in this team, it's that all of my coworkers are very passionate and super skilled. So that's something, every day is a new challenge for me. And I'm still learning a lot every day. So yeah, that's me.
So tell me, what are some of the things that you see that are different from, being a developer like on an Android team at some of the other companies that you worked with versus now working for Microsoft and Flipgrid? What are some? They can be, technical things, or they can actually be, just the environment, the people that you work with. What are some of the differences that you see?
I think that one is the environment. All of my coworkers, all the team, it's super friendly. I like that a lot. And even so, some of the tasks that we do very, very often, it's to have like what we call PR reviews, or actually it's reading the code from somebody else and see if you find any issue and approve it or not. So that is a process that I like a lot, because even it's supposed that I being an experienced developer, and every day there's something that I missed, and somebody else could kind of reminds me very friendly, but we know it's a product that it's a kind of impacting, or it's being used by millions of users or students and educators. So it's very nice to work in this team. And yeah, so one it's the environment, which is very friendly. That's one thing. The process, it's also something different. I used to work sometimes in teams where the process were very rigid. There was a lot of planning behind, and then there was somebody, maybe the project manager, just come to you and say, hey, this is what you need to build, and you spend some time building, and that's it, and you receive the next set of requirements. And this time with Flipgrid, it's more like very agile. So we work very closely with designers, with project managers, and it's like we try to be very as fast as possible. It's something that I still trying getting into, because I'm more like, okay, I need to take my time, and I like a lot to run tests on the devices that I have here. So sometimes I'm maybe the slowest in the team, but I'm still learning to get in more like velocity. So yeah, that's something different.
So when you came from Mexico City to the States, did you land directly in Minneapolis or Minnesota?
No, I'm actually living in Henderson, Nevada.
Okay.
So I'm near Las Vegas.
Okay.
And I'm planning to. Right now, I'm working remotely. I was hired in August, and my plan is to, in the following months, hopefully before the end of the year, that I'm going to be relocate to Minneapolis with the rest of the team. Cool. But so far I've been like working remote. I'm not been able to meet any of my coworkers personally, but we met every day virtually.
Excellent. Yeah. So I want to thank you for sharing your experiences. But if you'll hang on for our panel discussion and some live Q&A, I'd appreciate it. But with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. So thank you, Luis. Okay, so our next speaker, let me stop the spotlight right here. And our next speaker is Dylan Mansour. So Dylan, if you're ready, Dylan is a senior software engineering manager on the Flipgrid team.
Yeah. Hi. So I'm I'm Dylan.
Dylan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I started at Flipgrid back in July, I guess, giving the whole spiel. yeah, born and raised in Minnesota, so this isn't, any kind of, I'm used to the cold at this point, it's fine. I went to school for game design and development, which is somewhat removed from what I'm doing now. Learned a lot of kind of interesting skills around like 3D modeling and animation, a lot of like kind of fine art stuff. Jumping out of that, I got started at a local tech consultancy called The Nerdery, doing Flash development. As you can imagine, that was around the time that Flash started taking a huge nosedive. So we, as a company, kind of like decided to cross-train employees into mobile. I chose iOS. And I've been doing that ever since. So that was probably about 10 years ago at this point. I was there for probably about 8 years before making a jump over to a local startup that was focusing on food delivery called Foodsby. And I was there until March when COVID hit, and they essentially laid off about 70% of their staff at that time. So yeah, I was unemployed for a little bit, but found my way towards Flipgrid, like I said, in July, and have been there since.
What is it that you like so far? What is it that you like most working for the Flipgrid team and then working for Microsoft?
I would say there are definitely two things that always come to mind when thinking about this. The first is the fact that presently Flipgrid isn't monetized in any way. So when we're making decisions, we're not making decisions based on what's going to make us the most money. We're making the decisions based on what's the best thing for our users, which is a whole level of like moral ambiguity that's just removed from most, I guess, companies that I've seen. Like, you're always kind of worried that like money is going to be the deciding factor, and you're just like maybe going to have to be put in some sort of ethical quandary, but that has not been the case. And the other thing I think is you are definitely empowered to kind of pursue things you think are right for the platform and given the space to kind of follow through there. So I guess some quick examples being like when I initially started, I saw that the state of the like CI pipeline for iOS was kind of in a sorry state. And so I immediately just started focusing on like how to improve that and get things more automated and up and running without really having anybody have to tell me to do that. It was just something I was like, I think this would be helpful. I would like to do this. So I did it. And no one ever stood in my way. And then one of my coworkers that started recently has been really into improving our automated tests. And nobody was necessarily pointing him in that direction. He's just found that gap and decided he wanted to pursue it. So both of those I think are very, very strong positives for me.
And then as a manager, so this is one thing I always kind of wonder, right? So I used to work for AT&T as a software engineer, and once you became a manager, that was it, no more coding. Which for me, it made me not want to be a manager. I wanted to stay technical. I wanted to stay hands-on. So what is it like to be a manager there on the Flipgrid team? Do you roll up your sleeves often to dig into code, or do you leave that to your team and kind of guide and direct them, to implement those features?
Yeah, we don't really have anybody right now that I think is just like a dedicated manager. So like all of our managers are all working managers, which I like. I was not willing to give up coding. So I find that helpful, especially in regards to like, ensuring that your managers are in sync and like they have experience that's like relevant and staying relevant. I feel like that's kind of important. I will say the managers tend to be a little more swamped with meetings than most people, which, I mean, usually the workload's not too bad as far as like the meetings go. But, if we're in a phase where we're like planning a lot or anything like that. You know, you tend to have a little more meetings than actual development time. But I would say usually there's not too many meetings or anything, and mostly I'm just able to develop.
And that's a huge thing. So one last question for you. If you had to give, thinking back to, you were recently hired last year, I think you said in July. So thinking back to that, what advice would you give candidates that are going through that interview process to get to land a job?
Yeah, I would say the one thing that I always look for and try to represent whenever I was applying places or whenever I'm involved in the interview process is I'm always looking for people that are willing to admit when they don't know something and either seek help or grow in that space, right? So like 10 times out of 10, I would rather work with somebody that has less experience with the right attitude than somebody that has a lot of experience but is a jerk. Like you can fix the experience, you can't generally fix the attitude. So I would say like when we hire, it tends to be more of a personality fit than anything. So just be yourself.
Excellent. So thanks, Dylan. I appreciate it. So for all the candidates, and I'm going to get ready to introduce our next speaker, who is Nate Clay. But for all of our candidates, just in consideration of time, because we're going to be done here in about 25 to 30 minutes. So if you have questions, please put those questions in the chat. And then I'm going to ask the Flipgrid team to, if you see questions that you can answer, go ahead and start to answer those questions. So that way, when we go into the live Q&A, some of the questions will already be answered, and we'll make the most of everybody's time. So thanks, Dylan. And with that, let me introduce our next speaker. Like I said, our next speaker is Nate Clay, who is also an engineering manager, senior software engineering manager at Flipgrid. So Nate, if you're ready.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Yeah, so like Goog said a little bit ago, we have a lot of Nates on the team. So most of the time, folks on the team are just calling me Clay. So that's super easy. And yeah, so I've actually been with Flipgrid for coming up on 6 years now. So I would join the team shortly after we became a startup out of the University of Minnesota. So I'm one of the longest tenured engineers on the team. I think as far as, if you don't include anyone on the back end team, I'm the longest tenured engineer. So very proud to be working on this product for that long, really see it through a ton of different phases, growing pains. Yeah, so I, like Goog said, I went to school also in Winona State University, and I was the one to bring him in. But I've been doing iOS even before college. I really just started dabbling with it as something kind of fun to do. I've always been sort of a Apple fanboy, I guess you could say. And so funny enough that I end up at Microsoft ultimately. But really, it was just, I was so in love with Apple products and really liked tinkering with things, and building iOS apps was like the happy middle ground. And so I've been doing it since the days of early Objective-C, where you had to manage all of your own memory. In college, I did computer science, and I did a bunch of side jobs helping out some people in town, helping build really rudimentary early iOS apps, building games. So I've always been super passionate just about building products that I can put out into the App Store. And so when I had the opportunity to come join the Flipgrid when it was a startup pretty early in my career, I was only 1 year in, had a contact move over to Flipgrid and reach out to me, and I dived in head first and have been super excited to be building this product ever since. Everyone has been really echoing, just super awesome building something that's free to use, that's making an impact, that is out on the App Store for anyone to download. And that's always really what's driven me here. So yeah, so as one of the longest tenured engineers, I've had to, at one point in time, I was the only mobile engineer in house. And so really, I've been growing out this team. Everyone here has been hired by me or someone that I hired. And it's just super awesome to be even having this event where we have all these people super interested in our roles and talking to us, because it wasn't that long ago that, I was just by myself. So I'm always super happy to be doing these types of things. And I'm just in awe that I get to grow this team even more. So it's been an awesome opportunity. I'm so happy to be here.
How big was the company when you first started? Like, how many people were employed?
Yeah. So at that, I think I was employee number 25, I want to say. So,
wow. And then
yeah.
what was the transition like? So as Flipgrid started to grow, and then you guys, Microsoft, I guess acquired Flipgrid. So what was that like, and have you seen some of the benefits of now having Microsoft as the parent company?
Yeah. So really, what I always say is not a whole lot's changed. We just have a lot more support now. Is really what it comes down to. As a startup, you're always having to be super scrappy. You're having to cut corners. You're having to do things as quickly and as cheaply as possible just to sort of stay afloat, right? And so being a part of a company like Microsoft that has just so many resources at their disposal is incredible. Even the Android and iOS communities here at Microsoft are super strong. If we're running into any issues, there might be someone on our team that doesn't really have the solution. We have a whole massive org of people that might be able to have the ability to help us. So we can reach out on Teams to multiple different channels we're a part of and see if anyone else can come out and help us. So things as small as that, and then obviously just this infrastructure, this ecosystem, the engineering pipeline that Microsoft has really lets us flourish. But with that said, we're still got that startup energy. We're still wanting to rapidly build things and try things out. And sometimes we might kind of make mistakes along the way. We might build something, put it out to test out with a couple of our educators, and they might come back and say, yeah, that really doesn't work for us, and we'll just keep building, try again. And it's really awesome having that ability to still be really rapidly building and actively engaging with the community, but still be a part of a massive organization like Microsoft.
Excellent. So I'm going to start. So let's go ahead and start our panel discussion. I'm going to pose the first question to you, Nate. But for the rest of the Flipgrid team, if you'd like to go ahead and fire up your video, and then I'll stop the spotlight. But like I said, I'm gonna pose the first question to Nate, and that is around Flipgrid, for lack of better words, is an online learning and sharing platform, right? You guys and as a community. So sort of a current events question, right? So you have a team of software engineers, you have some software and a product that you've created. It's solving some challenges and making the world a better place, from a tech perspective. So once COVID-19 hit, what was sort of the environment, and what kind of things did you guys have to prepare for? Because I'm assuming that more people were using your product because it was a product that could service the needs online, right? So
100%.
Talk us through that experience.
I think that's really, that encapsulates so much of what our workflow can really be like. Like Dylan said a little bit ago, we're always looking at our user base and looking at how we can best help them. And when just a year ago, we were, it was a crazy time. We saw a massive increase in the amount of users we had. Like a hockey stick just going straight up. And so we really had to rapidly look at how our app was being used. Support was just getting bombarded with emails every single day with new users who were very confused and trying to learn the product and were getting stuck at different points. And so really we had to just spend a month to pause everything we were doing and shift gears at just focusing on the community and really looking at where people were having problems, where they were getting stuck, if there were any bugs, and just take a moment to really just have a month dedicated to the overall stability and use of our app for brand new users. So that was a big push and something that I think really gave us a super solid foundation to keep building. All things considered, we hit that growth really gracefully. There's definitely some growing pains along the way, and I think we were able to really quickly scale up and maintain that scale for over the summer, which was super awesome. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Excellent. So thanks, Nate. So I have sort of a cultural question, right? So we've had a lot of events where we've introduced different teams, throughout Microsoft. And a lot of those teams were native to Microsoft, right? So they've been part of Microsoft, like the Windows core team, different things. So Flipgrid is sort of a newer team to Microsoft. But I like to understand and sort of express from a cultural perspective, some of your perspectives around being yourself at work or bringing yourself to work. How comfortable are you bringing your true person to work? So I'll open that up, but just considering our audience, right, being very diverse, if someone would like to kind of speak to their experience working for Flipgrid or Microsoft and being themselves at work. I'll default it to Journey.
I'm coming off mute. I was trying. I'm looking at your background and it says family. Flipgrid truly is a family. And we all come from very diverse backgrounds. But one thing that's common is everyone is welcomed in the same manner, and has this level of mutual respect for one another, that it really helps us to grow and thrive together. So we show up as our best selves. We're always smiling and laughing. It is a really fun work environment. I work on, an engagement community side, but it's beautiful to see like Googs, creating like some videos for us to share on social media. And I know we didn't talk about that much, but our team is, incredible when it comes to also amplifying the work of educators in our community. And so you'll see that our team has also extended that family-like atmosphere to educators in our community, and from the educators back to our team as well. We know many of them by name. It is a very, beautiful work environment. So that's kind of like my take on it, but I'm sure so many others will feel that same way.
Excellent. Thanks, Janae. So my next question is more of a sort of a team environment thing. So, being a software engineer, a lot of us are curious. And we might be doing Java development today, but we're interested in the next hottest technology. So if someone can speak to the question around, Flipgrid's view or stance on, let's say I'm an Android engineer, right? But I want to get more involved in iOS. Have any of you had, the opportunity to take on different technologies? And then how, easy or difficult is that to kind of move around within the company? And I'll default this one to Googs or Nate if if no one else.
Yeah, sure. Which one? I'll take it. I'll take it real quick. Right now, pretty much we're pretty siloed, I'll say, in your platform that you work on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not extremely, involved in the other products. If you're the Android developer for a feature, you're working extremely closely with an iOS developer, developing the products together. And so in the end, a user could go between iOS, Android, web, and it all be the same exact experience. And so just because you're an Android developer doesn't mean you don't get to contribute to the other products that we have. You can use your expertise from one, help other members on the team, whether they're on your specific product discipline or not. And then there's always the culture of learning. And so there's absolutely no reason that you're an Android developer and you're just like, I want to learn this iOS stuff and start. There's a lot of great resources that Microsoft has available, to learn new things and utilizing those to explore other passions and areas that you're interested in is something I always advocate for.
Yeah, and I'll really quick, just recently, an engineer was working on a new part of our product that he had no experience in and knew that was going to be a roadblock. So we went ahead and ordered him a book that he's been reading. He's been actively spending some time just digging in a little bits by bits on top of his extra work. And so we're always looking for those opportunities to continue to learn in other key areas as you're working, right? Like learning should always be a part of any engineer's kind of path here. And, we really prioritize just kind of hack time too, like messing around, having fun. That's something we on the mobile team, once a sprint, are making sure there's time set aside for the engineers to just do whatever they want, have some fun, build what they want. And that's a great time to kind of just hop around. You might enter some other code bases, do a little bit of other work. And then the final thing I'll say is, we're hiring for Flipgrid. I want everyone to come here, love the team, stay here forever. But the beautiful thing is you're coming to Microsoft, and it's a massive organization with tons of different teams, and people spend their entire careers here. and love it and hop around to all these different teams and do so many different things throughout their career. So, you know, gotta keep a really open mind. It's, you know, you're coming here and you can stay here forever. So that's really the awesome part about Microsoft.
Excellent. So I want to start integrating some live Q&A questions from our candidates. So to the candidates, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I'll try to read off some of those questions to the team. So I'm seeing some comments about a technology called Xamarin. So if anybody's familiar with that from the team, are there any thoughts about leveraging that as a part of the technology in within Flipgrid? I'm not familiar with it, so I don't know. I'm not sure how to pose the question, but
yeah. So really, you know, so Xamarin is a tool to build apps across both iOS and Android, and it's definitely something very early on in our process we sort of looked at and dabbled with, but ultimately, so much of our product has to deal with some pretty intense core media aspects of the OSs, mainly the ability to record video and add a ton of additional effects, and, you know, really getting in the weeds of sort of lower level core OS logic there, and then additionally, you know, the ability to play them back, and so that's really why we've really kept this native approach to our apps. But with that said, you know, if there's anything we should take out of this, it's that just because you have Xamarin experience and that's it, doesn't mean that you shouldn't still kind of look at our roles. You know, I think we'd be very happy to look at anyone who's shown talent throughout their career and has done a ton of awesome engineering work, and you know, see where we can potentially find a fit on the team for some of this more native development.
So I see a question is there any plans to develop a native app for the Windows Phone? That was a joke. No, just kidding.
We do have one developer on the team who his favorite OS was the Windows OS.
So I have sort of a cultural question, and that is around you know, how the company integrates with the surrounding community. So I know the product is related to education. So can anyone on the team think of any examples of how the company has tried to be sort of a good corporate citizen and be a part of different things within the community?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, things like this. I know that just from what I see that a lot of times, like there's a really close relationship with teachers in schools, which I've noticed coming in and really appreciate it. I'm not sure if they're entirely from the local Minneapolis community, but I think cultivating that community is something that stood out to me. And I also wanted to point out that, you know, as a part of Microsoft, you do have access to employee resource groups, ERGs. So I know the Blacks at Microsoft ERG is, the Twin Cities Blacks at Microsoft ERG is doing a minority student group, minority student day with some of the local schools in the area. So, you know, there's ways to participate in that as well.
So
yeah,
Great.
Oh, I was gonna say, and Microsoft as a whole has a amazing giving vision, and one of the key benefits you have is they will match any donation you make 100% to any charities. And so in October, we have a big month of just really donating as much as we can, and we as a mobile team did a bunch of awesome as much as we could at that time, and we had people share their favorite charities. And we really had a ton of awesome local charities that were posted by the mobile team, and we all came together and donated as much as we could during that time, which was super cool. So, yeah.
So my last question before we get into next steps for candidates, and I'll pose this one to Dylan, Luis, or Somesh, having been recently joined the team. Were there any pleasant surprises after you joined the company that maybe you didn't know about before you joined?
Well, I guess if you talk about the benefits, part of the reason is, as Jordan mentioned, the Perks Plus program. where I didn't know, like as I mentioned, I'm training to become a pilot. I didn't know Microsoft would reimburse a part of that fee to me. Like it is helping me live the dream, live the life that I want to live on the site. So whether you want to buy a bicycle, want to stay fit, want to join a gym, anything that you do on a life that will keep you fit, that will keep you going, engaging, that will make you happy. Microsoft has that program where you can just go out and do that thing and they'll take care of it. So that was something that I know a little bit, but it was very surprising that the extent of that program where if I want an ergonomic desk, I can the Microsoft will take care of that. If I want to buy a home gym, I know Nate has done that. You can go take care of that. Minneapolis has a lot of great lakes. If you want to buy a kayak, you can do that with Microsoft. So that was something that I learned after I joined, and of course, a truly great benefit by Microsoft.
Excellent, excellent. So, Luis, did you have something to add?
Yeah, for me, it was, I know Microsoft, it's big, but I didn't know about all the learning opportunities, that so many. So, for example, LinkedIn is part of Microsoft, and they have LinkedIn learning tools. So you have access to all of those videos and education online. And not only that, it's many other like books, online books. There's a very big like kind of electronic sharing way to share. In this case, for me, it's technical books, but all of this and the training, it's just like amazing, and I really loved it.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so with respect to time, so we got a couple of minutes left. I wanted to make sure that candidates knew next steps in the process. But obviously, not only is Microsoft a great place to work, but there's some excellent opportunities on the Flipgrid team. The fact that we invited you here to this event means that your skills are relevant, and we want you to consider the opportunities with the Flipgrid team because they are hiring. So Jesse has been putting into the chat. Jesse is on the recruitment team for Microsoft and Flipgrid. So he's been putting the link in the chat that you can utilize to potentially be considered for an interview. All right, so I'll also email that out after the event. So keep an eye on your email. We'll also share the recording from this event, but the next steps will be to submit the interview interest form. The team will take a look at your resume, your LinkedIn profile and your experience, and then try to align you for an interview loop so that you can potentially land a role on this great team. So those are next steps. Jesse, did I miss anything, or do you want to add anything onto that?
No, that pretty much covers it. Thanks, Will.
Okay, excellent. So typically what I like to do to close out the event is ask for any final words from our keynote as far as words of encouragement for the candidates. Jernay.
All right, just always be you and love, grow, and inspire.
There it is, folks. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank the Flipgrid and the Microsoft team for investing in diversity and spending the time to share your experiences, share these opportunities with our candidates. And to all of the candidates, like I said, please take advantage of these opportunities. Look for an email from me with instructions and next steps. But I want to thank you for making this event possible, because if nobody shows up, we can't have these events. So thank you guys for showing up. And thanks again to the Flipgrid team and to Microsoft. And with that, I'll just wish everyone a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you
so much, Will. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.